Good morning and welcome back to Rise and Shine Coffee Breaks with me, Dr. Claire Renee, powered by Thrive IQ Solutions, helping leaders thrive smarter and lead stronger. Now, today I want to ask you something. I want you to sit with it before you answer. When was the last time someone asked you how you were doing and actually waited for the real answer? Not the I'm good, I'm managing, I'm fine answer, but the real one. Because if you're anything like the women I work with and the women sitting at the table with me today, the real answer is a little more layered than fine. You are raising children or celebrating grandbabies. You're sitting at hospital bedsides and planning birthday parties sometimes in the same week. You are the one your aging parents call. You are the one that your children still need, even the ones who just left home. You are grieving friends, siblings, relationships, identities, and showing up for work on Monday morning like none of it just happened. This is not stress. This is not burnout. This is something that deserves its own name. We're calling it leading from the crossroads, the season of human responsibilities, grief, and identity shifts. The moment in a woman's life where everything is moving at once. And this is what I want you to hear before we go any further. You're not falling apart. You are standing at the crossroads of everything you love, and how you govern yourself here, emotionally, physically, behaviorally, will determine not just how to survive this season, but who you become on the other side of it. This is what today's about. I am joined by the Vanguard Circle ambassadors, each bringing a distinct lens to this conversation. As you know, Katrina, our presence authority, whose work center on image and how a woman's appearance communicates her authority and her relationship with herself. Also, Princess is here. She's our vitality authority, who brings the clinical truth about what this season actually does to the body and why physical health is not optional right now. And Christina, our behavioral insight authority, who decodes the pattern grief activates and what intentional behavioral governance looks like when you are leading through the hardest seasons of your life. Welcome to Her Inner Advantage Conversations. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. We are here, Rise and Shine. Coffee Breaks with Dr. Renee. This is Her Inner Advantage Conversation series, and it's so important that we come today and speak about a very important topic. I'm calling it leading from the crossroads, right? This is a season where many of us women are dealing with the human responsibilities, such as grief, identity shifts, and being stewards of our families right now. We are serving women who are going through what we're going through right now at this age in this season of our lives. We're standing at a crossroad where we're raising kids, welcoming, for some of us, welcoming grandbabies or helping raise grandbabies. A lot of our kids are going off to college, right? And we have to deal with that departure, but still maintain a presence in their lives. A lot of us are helping with the caregiving of our parents, and some of us are grieving our parents, right? And not just parents alone, but even our pets. You know, I've experienced everything I've mentioned, I've experienced or I am experiencing right now. And it definitely impacted my life personally to the point where sometimes the grief alone kept me in bed for days, right? And there were times where I did not want to be a leader anymore, right? Or I didn't even want to even think about money and responsibilities. But that when you're in a certain level of your life, that's not an option, right? The people still need us to show up. And so there was a point where I knew I had to get up, right? Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and had to push through. But a lot of those times while I was pushing through, I wasn't 100%, right? I gave up maybe, I was get some days 25%, 50%, but after a while, it's business as usual. So we have to talk to our women leaders and, you know, how to face some of these dilemmas. You know, it's a crossroad and there are some great times. I don't want to make it seem so dismal as if it only encompasses bad experiences, but there are some good experiences, especially with the grandbabies and getting new pets and moving away or going to a new location, making new friends. But then there are the times where It's so difficult to even get out of bed because grief is so, so heavy. So, leading from the crossroads, it impacts everything, right? Our emotions, impacts our image, how we show up, what we wear, and needless to say, it impacts our health, right? I remembered around the same time I was going through multiple losses. I was losing a lot of my family members. That was the same time I started to experience my health issues. Chances are it was because of my age, right? But I also feel that the stress that came with losing family members, daughters going away to college, should be a happy event, but there's some loss of identity there also. I wasn't volleyball mom anymore, so we're going to talk about the biological impact and behaviorally, right? Things I was doing before, I could not do anymore. My coping mechanisms kicked in more than my ability to just enjoy life and be present at certain events. So, needless to say, all of these things are important and these situations will happen. If they're not happening now, it will occur. And so, how do we prepare our women? So, I would love to start with Miss Katrina. Now, Miss Katrina, how does this impact our image overall? Because I know when I was going through it, I'll pick on myself. The last thing I was thinking about was fashion or beauty. I was just happy to, needless to say, slap on some lotion and call it a day and just say, here I am, take me as I am. Does that sound about right, Miss Katrina?
It does for some women.
Mhm.
We can't put us all in one group, so it does for one women for some women. So when some women experience grief, or if they're going through some emotional turbulence, trauma, their clothing is the last thing that they think about, and you can see that on them. So if it was a person that's very vibrant, she wore pink, she wore yellow, she wore floral, she wore prints, and then she moves into, black or gray or just basic sweatpants and t-shirts. If you were her friend, you will, look at her and say, something's going on, because that's not normally how she dresses. That's not normally how she presents herself to the world. So grief does show up in that way, because when she's not feeling great inside, sometimes some of us don't have the energy to even present ourselves to the world the way that we want. Some
Mhm.
of us just don't have the energy to do that. And some of us do. If you come, like, I'm a 70s baby, some of us have moms that it didn't matter what they went through. They would always say, don't wear your emotions on your sleeve. People don't have to know how you feel. People don't have to know what you're going through. Present yourself in a manner that where you want to be, or where you were before and where you want to go again. So some of us just experience things different. So I would most definitely say it does show up either on the side where you just, I don't care what I look like, you can have on a t-shirt, jeans and shirt every day, all day, or you present yourself in a manner that I'm just going to look great. I know I'm going through a lot of things right now, but I'm still going to present myself in a way that is going to at least make me feel a little better when I look in the mirror.
One time I realized my nail polish, like now I have pink because I'm feeling a little bit brighter, but the nail polish I would select were dark. I mean, really dark to the point where my nail tech would say, can we try a little sparkle? And I'm like, no. But then later on, when I made a decision to become more intentionally happy, then I started to play around with the other colors. And as you see, this is actually new because everything else I brought out were like pretty much dark. And when I purchased this dress, it was intentional. I mean, it's a good fit for this season, but also I wanted to make a declaration. Now,
Mhm.
physically, it's a whole different conversation. Princess, being our vitality expert and authority, when my doctors started to diagnose me with certain chronic illnesses, I would say, but what caused this, right? They're like, stress, and I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, am I going to die? And my doctor was like, well, not today, right? He's like, but from, seeing a neurologist, right? Because I kept on having bad headaches, and to my gut doctor, and, many of my specialists would say stress. Is stress really that impactful, Princess, that it brought me to so many specialists while I'm just like this one 40-year-old, person in a room in the midst of 60 and 80-year-olds? I'm like, why am I here? Can you please give
Yes.
us some intelligence around that?
Absolutely. Well, we know that grief is real. And I think the part that we attempt to process is that, like you stated, it's a timeline for allowing you to respond. With chronic stress and grief, it causes different symptoms in different people, how they process it. A lot of our executives and leaders, they're expected to be back in that room and they put on a mask, right? So symptoms can be tightness in the chest. Maybe they have disruptions in their sleep. Maybe they're experiencing hormonal imbalance. But we do know that with elevated cortisol, inflammation lingers. The nervous system never fully settles because the body is still holding on to a story that the mind hasn't processed. So the more our body continues to become inflamed, that is where we know that we see the increase in hypertension. We see the increase in cholesterol. We see the fact that she now is experiencing, which actually statistically, women are 2 times more likely to experience anxiety and stress, related fatigue. And a lot of times it's secondary to the fact that it's unprocessed emotional, physical, or spiritual grief. They're not allowing themselves to cope. And because they don't have their team to be able to lead them between emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, behavioral intelligence, their clothing, others don't know how to approach them. And then they just mask, get sandwiched between, and begin to push through, which in turn leads to harm.
Yeah, I experienced that personally. And it doesn't help that we're pushing through these moments, right? It actually probably created more damage overall. For most people, could actually be irreparable.
Absolutely. So once again, this is a forum to be very personal and vulnerable, and I hope those who are listening to the podcast feel that way as well. I'm an autoimmune warrior. I suffer from an autoimmune condition and then getting the joy of perimenopause. I lost my father last August, and it set me back, and I thought I could compartmentalize because I am a provider who takes care of others, and allowing myself to feel felt like something I couldn't process. So much that I actually wound up spending my birthday in the hospital with Takotsubo's, which is actually broken heart syndrome. So I mimicked heart failure. And that was a huge setback, both emotionally, physically, and mentally, because I am the one who preaches wellness. 2 days before, I was running with a weighted vest. I was literally checking my blood work. But what I didn't process was stress. I didn't allow myself to be present in my grief. I felt ill prepared to be able to answer people's questions. I definitely felt that my clothing began to reflect more of a person who didn't want to be seen. I needed you just to allow me to be present. So I did have to work on talking tools on that. And so, people still were very off-put by the fact that I wasn't able to respond as quickly. And that's where I know we'll talk about next. But someone who's actually walked the journey and still is healing from grief, it's 100% true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we talked about this before, and it's quite tough. And so, there are situations where our jobs or employers or our clients, they would, extend sympathy, but for how long, right? It's like, okay, 2-3 days. Are you back? You right? You start getting the text messages or emails. We can't wait for you to come back, and it was so sad for me because it was such a hard time, and I felt so obligated to my business as a business owner, and also I have clients. I even did a presentation the morning after my father passed away, and I'm so embarrassed to say that. Like, now I think about him, like, girl, what were you doing? But I still had obligations, and I'm like, it's only going to be 10 minutes, and then, move on. So, Christina, in a moment like that, when a woman is leading, she still has to navigate through human responsibilities, right? But then here's what shows up: grief and identity shifts. What's acceptable and not acceptable in the case of our well-being?
Well, as we've learned, society isn't interested in our grief, our healing, our needs. So many of our cultural traditions that, even though we're a bit different, for each culture, had the same kind of community wellspring of support for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And those have been pushed to the side by societals. Be productive, be motivated, you must perform, you must produce. And that energy has become the narrative. So most high-performing women, which to me is any woman who's had like a full-time job ever and other responsibilities. They have likely had to white knuckle to get there. and, go to work ill, go to work after a major loss, go to work after a really difficult night of no sleep, maybe due to hormonal issues. So that white knuckling becomes more and more routine, and our actual connection to our own knowing our bodies and minds detaches. We become distant, we become numb. And then, of course, we're going to have some sort of, I can no longer do this, coming to that moment, whether it's mental or physical, whether it's panic attacks, extreme anxiety, not wanting to leave the house, depression, where, like Katrina said, I can't put on even, a matching outfit or any color that's not just drab and comfortable, much less put on some makeup. Or as Princess said, yeah, all now of a sudden my body's not working anymore. And I'm doing something one day and I'm not even able to stand up the next day. I think between the women in this panel, we have experienced probably like 90%, if not more, of all types of grief, loss, difficulties. So between all of us, we've seen so much.
Yeah. Okay. Something I noticed also around that time, women have shorter fuse. I noticed I just did more just to avoid having to deal with the reality that this person, or like my dog of 13 years was no longer with me. Are these some of the behavioral patterns women should look for when they're doing too much and causing an overload?
There comes a point where the putting on the mask and pretending doesn't work anymore. And as we said, either someone's mind or their body says a really hard stop. So what that looks like is very individual, but it can be really scary when a woman's like, but wait, when such and such happened last year, that felt even bigger and I was able to push through. Why not now? Why is this comparatively smaller thing hitting me? It's a buildup.
Yeah.
It's a progression and a buildup of all the medium-sized, big-sized, and then the day-to-day sized difficulties, frustrations, losses, disappointments, disasters, frustrations, failures. And then something happens and it's scary because things are not working anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's the kind of wake-up call where people are like maybe listening to a discussion like ours, or I'm going to finally go to the doctor for the first time in 4 years, even though I just white knuckled through all the sicknesses. Or, wow, maybe this is time to start looking at why I'm wearing the same, 4 shirts, my comfy shirts and my comfy pants.
Yeah, absolutely. Trina, that brings us back to showing up, right? And so when I was going through, I would say, the darkest moments of my life, I told myself I had to do 3 things, right? So this is part of the emotional intelligence aspect of it, or emotional governance, is to set goals and boundaries, right? For yourself. I decided, no, you're not going to work, 8 hours, 5 hours. You're going to do 3 things today. How about that? I gave myself 3 things to do. To be honest, one of them is just to bathe, right? Okay, today I'm going to bathe. Number 2, eat 1 meal at least. I know Princess doesn't like that, but that's the most I could have done.
I'm not going to say that.
I know, but that was the most I could have done, just 1 bath and 1 email. And I was satisfied. And I'm like, yes, I did accomplish something. So Katrina, for women who are going through this right now, they're listening to us, they still had to show up to the office. Some of us, we work from home or we work remotely. Well, what about that leader that has to show up every day to her business? How does she show up? What are 3 essentials she needs to have, Katrina?
I would say she needs to give herself grace for sure. Because going through that many things at one time, it's just thankful that we're all in our right minds. So let's just get that out there. But I do think she should give herself grace. If she has maybe a couple of suits that she can wear, even if it's a black suit or a navy suit, if she can put a floral print or pink underpinnings underneath, so she doesn't have to wear all black. So just have some staples in her closet. If it's a blazer, it's a pair of pants, or if it's a suit. A lot of women don't do suits anymore like that, as far as like the pants match and we don't do that a lot anymore. But if she has a blazer, I would say a printed top and a nice skirt, or a dress that she can wear and add a really nice accessory to it or a pair of earrings. It's going to keep her real simple, but she will present well. She won't present, if she does that, she won't present herself in such a grief-striven manner, if that makes sense.
Of
I don't know
course.
if that makes sense. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like if she can do
yeah,
those simple things, people probably know that she's dealing with some things at work because her attitude, her demeanor, all those things shift. As women, most of us can't hide those things where we're in something so deep. We just can't hide it. So, but at least she can present herself well, show
Yeah.
herself some grace, that blazer, that dress, and add a nice accessory to it. She can at least present herself as a leader in that way until
no,
she
yeah,
begins to feel better on the inside through her
absolutely,
therapy and all those things.
absolutely.
And can I say, Dr. Renee,
Yes, please, Princess,
yeah,
jump in.
the one thing I'd like to say is that I had to recognize that it was interesting that other people, every time they'd see me, didn't know what to say.
Mhm.
So their comments to me were all, because then if they saw me dressed a certain way, I'm better. You doing good today? Are you feeling better today? Or they wanted me to relive the same story. I was telling it over and over again. And learning to have talking points to handle those conversations and pieces are huge. So, I'm taking it day by day. Today's a good day. I'm taking it slow.
That's good.
Give me grace. But I found that if I could just stick there, because I then noticed people wanted to now almost tell me their place in grief. I'm now having a great day, and then they just want to go. Like it's like an open faucet. When I know, don't worry, it's going to hit you 2 years later. You're just going to explode with tears. And I was like, I was actually having a great day today. Like it was a good day. And now I'm in the bathroom like this,
Awesome.
like zinning. So
Yeah.
I started going, if they ask them like, and finding words. So even in an executive level, you're putting it on, you're putting that face on, I'm walking in a room, I'm having it, and being able to just go, I'm taking it, I'm taking it slow.
Yeah.
Give me some grace. I'm pulling back a little bit, but I'm taking it day by day. I
Yes.
have a good support system. I appreciate you asking. And almost stopping them too before they start unloading. And so I started either, sometimes it could be a light hand or touch. If people don't like touch, then it'd be like maybe saying their name midway through to cut them off so that they didn't keep going in their story. And that way then I could just kind of redirect them.
Mhm.
Was very helpful. And I realized it did help me and not being able to go down that path day after day after day, because they were using it as like a moment to try to connect.
Now, please tell me, Princess, when you have a client or even yourself personally, when you're going through this, and it's like you said, it's perpetual. Just to share a story too. I had a client, my executive coaching client, and I was going in the office to meet her. And one day I went in. This is after her brother passed away. She had to leave town and come back. And now we're meeting for the first time. And we sat down together. We befriended each other prior to this. And she just sat down and cried, right? And I felt honored to be there for her because I knew she could not do that on the other side of the door. And then I told her, hey, if you want to talk about it, we could talk about it. But if you don't, we don't have to. So she explained some of the events that she went through, the circumstances, and that she still had to come back to work and she's pushing through. And it is healthy for her to have these type of moments with people who she can confide in, right? Because as women, what we don't want to present ourselves is the W word, right? Weak. We don't want to be weak, or even worse, emotional, right? Like, oh, she's so emotional. Yes, I am. And I love it, right? Because I'm showing my true self, and naturally, innately, this is who we are, and it's okay. And Princess to say it's actually healthy to kind of express that. And also for women who, because before when I was going through all this, I didn't know it was stress. I didn't know it was grief. What does grief look like internally, or how it shows up externally for us, Princess?
So the biggest thing is what we know is linked to it. So chronic inflammation is linked to 6 out of the top 10 causes of death, right? This is including heart disease and cancer, right? And 80% of women will experience, obviously we're going to have hormonal changes, sleep disruption, right?
Oh, yeah.
They'll start to notice changes in regular cycle, weight gain, thyroid imbalance, hair, skin, nails, right? So what I really liked this line, and I say, I'm going to make sure I quote it right, but your body whispers before it screams.
Oh gosh, yes.
Don't wait for the diagnosis to start paying attention. And I loved the way that said that, because the whispers are you trying to battle your way through and hold the line of grief without understanding that your body was trying to talk to you the whole time.
Yeah.
So what you'll see is maybe it's darkening underneath the eyes. That's vitamin B12 deficiency. Breaking of the hair or thinning of the scalp. Now we know this is obviously going to tell me vitamin D. It's going to tell me about vitamin E, right? And then now the main thing is now you start telling me maybe you're having dizziness or episodes of vertigo or lightheadedness. You may notice the fact that I'm having more brain fog or difficulty in conversations. And that is where I say the body at that point is going, you're asking me to hold up something. And the nervous system is attempting to regulate, but it's so dysregulated by the fact that you won't address what's the main problem going on.
Yeah. And Christina, I know you're itching to jump in, right?
I'm enjoying hearing everyone's different perspectives based on our areas of expertise. It's like so interesting to hear.
Yeah.
I think Princess talks about how she utilizes so much of the medical model, and she's, very cutting edge with all the vitamin things. And then I'm sure she also sees patients who on paper, all their levels are fine and they are still barely able to function. And then they're even, more worried because they're like, but wait, isn't there a medical reason? And then we get into more of, well, obviously there's still mysteries. We don't know everything yet.
So is it more behavioral then? Are you saying that?
It potentially can be. It can be. This is where we delve into what are the influences and where is this person potentially not looking at what's really going on because they are so invested in the showcasing to the world and the business as usual and everything in them. Like Princess and Katrina were saying, no, this is not working anymore. This is it. So we've talked about this before, being honest. If we're in denial with our own selves, how can we be authentic to the world?
Great.
Yeah.
Well said.
As far as mitigating some of our symptoms, because guess what? We still have to go to work. We still have to show up, right? So Christina, what are some behavioral insights you can provide for us to not to suppress some of our symptoms because we're going to Princess and get the health care that we need. We're going to see Katrina and get the image consulting that we need. As far as behavior, how do I still show up every day? Even after the self-awareness, okay, I know what I'm going through. I understand internally, externally. I'm ready to now demonstrate that, which is part of my RISE methodology, right? The E, exuding, right? Some of the learned behaviors. What does that look like when we're taking those steps to move forward?
A lot of it is taking out anything but necessities. So all the other have-tos that are not crucial to day-to-day functioning, and that may be, 3 priorities. And that for some people might be a partner, the job, and then for them, it's like getting their movement in per day. Let's just say that those are the basic 3. So if those are your basic 3, we have to take everything out. For somebody else, it might be a partner, the job, and then dealing with doing their favorite hobby, like going to pottery class. Like that's what keeps them grounded. That's what keeps them from feeling like they're spiraling. Those become the top 3. So what are the top 3 that you're all in? Other people, it's having their weekly girls' night along with the job and something else. So these are the things that are holding them down. Everything else is, I'm sorry, I'm not able to do that. Whether it's sitting on other committees, whether it's, going to see relatives across country, sorry, that's not going to happen this year. Maybe we can do some Zoom meetings because right now it's just not possible. So cuddling down to the essentials. So like with Katrina saying, getting ourselves in a place where we're feeling comfortable and confident going out and meeting the world to the best of our ability, getting our medicals dealt with, making sure there's no major underlying issue, and also, seeing what medications might be needed. And then what are our essentials as we go through this grieving, healing season? And that's different for other people. Some people are going to need many, many, many months of just culling. Some people are like, oh, this feels better. I can go back in. But, checking in with ourselves and being very realistic and not saying, oh yeah, in 1 week I'll be fine. It doesn't work like that for the majority of people. 1 week is not going to be enough.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's very pleasing for you to say that, Christina, because it's like I'm having how some people, when they go through something in life and they feel like they have to do an apology tour, I'm doing a I'm back tour, right? And well, I'm not 100% back, but I feel well enough to now call up my girls and say, hey, I'm coming to town. Let's meet up. Let's spend some hours, no more, oh, we're so sorry for you and this, that, and other, and no more grief talking. Let's just talk about life because life is meant to be enjoyed abundantly, right? And we want to be able to understand the other side is awaiting us, right? And we can, you know, enjoy life. And going back to Christina just a little bit, is that one thing I did learn is grief and happiness can coexist, right? If it's being managed, And so, Princess, what does that look like when we are on the right track to better health? And I know we're going to immerse them with more strategies when we meet up personally, but give us at least three things that she can do now as she's taking a step.
So I think finding someone who definitely does more functional medicine that allows you to see a full panel, that is a big one, because I believe Christina said it beautifully. It is the most frustrating thing when you go to primary care and they do a cholesterol, a diabetes, kidney, liver function, and they say everything is okay. And then you go to your GYN, and if you don't state anything outside the norm, it's pretty much everything's okay. But you're now existing in this chaos and going, but nothing, it's not okay. And women 35 to 65 are not suddenly getting sick, okay? But what we know is insulin resistance goes up, inflammation goes up, our risk for cancer goes up. So the biggest thing I would say is obviously identifying first, put it on your timeline to say there. Quality sleep. I love supplements. But I do believe that it's important that it is prescriptive, because supplements are all not made equal the same way prescriptive medications are not made equal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell how many patients come in feeling defeated. I'm already taking all that because my girlfriend's told me to take it. Now they'll fight me on the one pill, but they'll take 15 ones they got off TikTok shop. Okay.
Yes.
And then when I'm now working my way out and I'm like, do you know what the max zinc is for the day? What's an optimal vitamin D level we're going
Oh,
for?
boy.
Right.
Here
And
we go.
so when I tell them, and I say optimal, I'm not saying what, I won't say the insurance is whatever, but not saying what they want, but what are we going for optimal?
Yes.
Right. And what's your comorbidities and health risks for mom and dad? And now if you can take mom, dad, sisters, and cousins and go, maybe it was colorectal issues. Well, are you taking the right probiotic?
Yeah.
Right. So I say for women, our last layer of defense is weight. Weight is the one thing that is like, that'll drive them to say that they finally need to get in because others can see it. We'll mask a lot of things. But I would say finding someone to be able to align with you, that would be a big one. Protection of sleep. You've got to have sleep.
Yes.
You got to have sleep. So even if you feel like it's a wind down process, but looking at sleep, we've got to reset our circadian rhythm. Our body has got to be able to reset in order for you to be able to function.
Yes.
And then lastly, I would say it would be obviously your healthy boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and giving yourself grace. I'm always going to come back to that because I believe that it is vital, in understanding to pull back and using what Christina said as your three things and choosing those. And then I've even delayed my response times in some text messages. I can't be that person I was then because I'm on a healing journey for the person I am now.
Today.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And the people who love and respect you, and the same thing, sometimes it can be professionally, gives you that aha moment as an adult
Mm-hmm.
that you might need to create some boundaries around your workspace as well, because we're all replaceable.
Yeah.
So make
Oh,
sure that
right.
you work on you.
And so I have another question for you, Princess.
Mhm.
Being our vitality authority and expert, what as I mentioned previously, I was hanging out with my girls over the weekend, and something we were sharing, and we all of us found to be true is the way we exercise is not the same way as we did before. We're doing less strength training, but we understand, right, that we need to maintain a level of muscles that's important to our health. I learned that through my dad's experience. We still have to have the muscles, but cardio, if we're losing weight, but I was told, shouldn't do more than 5 to 10 minutes of cardio. I realized that, exercising has to look different for me.
So I use an in-body machine. I believe that in-bodies are really important because it takes a better analysis of your full body.
Okay.
So that you can see visceral fat, inflammation, skeletal muscle mass, and percentage of body fat.
Oh, wow.
Because as we become more seasoned, remember, I'm not going to say aging,
Yeah.
seasoned, is that we do lose lean muscle mass.
Yes.
The Cindy Crawford high cardio, run yourself crazy and live on a 500 calorie diet will not suffice over the age of.
Mm-mm.
You will see that your visceral fat will go up, your inflammatory markers will go up, and our bone density goes down. Hence the reason why, what do you think is covered by insurance? A DEXA scan. Because I'm going to let you know your bones get more brittle and the fact that you have risk for osteoporosis and now need to take calcium and vitamin D, and then it's one broke hip, they want to throw us somewhere.
Wow.
So you need the muscle to burn the fat. So I encourage that I go 4 workouts. Pilates good as long as there's resistance in there.
Okay.
Yoga is great for once again toning and focusing on breathing. It is help with vascularity. It is excellent for like our joints. And then I go, you do need to have some type of resistance weight. And it's just because of the rate that women lose muscle after the age of 40. And that muscle is what protects the bones, that gives us the density to allow for us to weather life longer.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get away with that. So I will literally tell them, take 2 milk jugs in your house and fill them up with water. And I want 3 sets of 10 before you go to bed.
Wow.
I'm not looking for anything fancy. They want to, I don't have weights. Grab 2 jugs.
2 jugs.
Got a jug. Get a jug.
Yeah.
Tell me you can lift it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
And I'll say, there ain't no excuse. There ain't no excuse.
That's
You got
it, lady.
all of it right there. I don't need nothing fancy. Take your little one, hold them, and lift them. I'm like, that's your squats.
Yeah.
But we do need it. HIIT workouts and just high intensity cardio is just not it. So you need to have some balance. So 3 to 4 days a week, you should be doing a minimum 30 minutes of some type of resistance work.
Awesome. And I'm so happy you're the health expert here because, and it makes a lot of sense. Honestly, after 40, there's no purpose of lifting 50, 60, 90 pounds anymore. And I felt that I was hurting myself more. Like, why am I in here with these young folks trying to get muscles again? So when it comes to fashion, for us that are over 40, it can be a dilemma. You know, it's just like putting stuff together. Even if you prep for it, it's like, okay, I don't feel like wearing this today. And something you mentioned last time, Katrina, you talked about capsules, and that's been a buzzword, right? And you mentioned that you offer these services.
Yes, I can do that. Well, a capsule is a wardrobe of about 17 to 20 pieces that you can mix and match, from casual to work to going out. So it's going to include blazers, trousers, and pants, as we would say here, jeans, maybe a t-shirt, sneakers, pumps, boots. So it's really an entire wardrobe of essentials that you can mix and match.
Okay.
And it may be of a color palette. It could be, it could be beige, browns, and blacks, or if you're a bright girl, it could be yellow, pinks, and oranges. So it's really up to the client, it's really up to her. And that's where I would come in. You would just really talk to your image consultant to say, hey, this is what I want, this is my vision. And then she would develop that capsule for you. And for a lot of women that have decision fatigue, I think a capsule, well, not I think, I know a capsule will be great for them, because she's going to be able to look at her lookbook, if it's a digital thing, to say, oh, I have this shirt, I can wear these bottoms, I can put these sneakers on, or you know what, I'm going out after this, I can change it and put on a blazer, or put on a different top and change my shoes. So that's really what a capsule is really about. It's really about making things easy. And within that capsule, you should be able to do about 50. If you do a really good one, you should be able to do about 50 looks from within that capsule.
Wow.
So that's how, that's how it's
so essential.
Yeah, it's really easy, but a lot of women don't think about it, because you remember, like I said, if you haven't listened, before, go back, because I always tell people, you shop to build a wardrobe. You do not shop for an event. That's just not how, and that's where a lot of women get into trouble, because she's like, oh, I have this party that I've been invited to, or I have this 70s party I've been invited to, or I'm going to brunch with my girls, or I'm going to a conference. I need something to wear. You probably have everything in your closet, but it's how you shop that messed you up. So you should always think, I'm building a wardrobe. I'm not just shopping for a one-off. So I always want to think to build a wardrobe. So that means anytime you're invited somewhere, you have something to wear.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
And it's great to know that most of these items can be found in your closet now, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That you don't have to go and
I can
find
go
a
in.
whole new wardrobe.
Yeah, we should do some fun stuff. I can probably go in all of y'all closets. We could do a fun day or something. And you can say, oh, I haven't worn that. I know I can go and find, you probably have about 6 to 10 items that have tags on them. You didn't wear it.
You already
And
know.
I would say, well, why did you I'll go, oh, well, tell me, what's your plan for this? Where are you wearing it? I always ask those questions because I need to know
Mm,
what's your thinking behind purchasing that.
guilty.
And you're probably going to say it was on sale or
Yeah.
it was cute and I couldn't pass it by. Well, how long have you had it in there? Oh, it's been about 6 months or a year and you haven't worn it yet with a tag on it?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So,
Guilty.
I can do that. We can probably have fun, do a video of one of us to do that.
That
So
would be
probably a
great.
good thing. But yeah,
That would be
that's
great.
what I do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We needed that. And ladies, you provided so much insight. This was a tough topic, but I'm glad that we were able to pivot and made it brighter, and gave women some strategies, gave them some idea, gave them something to resonate with. I think it's so important that we don't just talk about these topics, but we provide resolutions, we provide strategies. We're going to host our first event coming up in May. Collective, please, start going online, get your tickets. We're making it happen. We're not just talking about it. We want to help you go through it, and we want you to champion this moment of your life. This season is a season of greatness for us, right? A lot of us are getting promoted. A lot of us are changing our full identity. A lot of us are navigating different things in life. Some things, like through the emotional aspect of it, are controllables and uncontrollables. You have to know how to distinguish them and take advantage of those you can. And then those you cannot control, you have to move through them. But move through them with self-awareness, stress management strategies, and great friends, and a great support team. So I think all these things are important. We talked about them. Please utilize these strategies. I brought to you in their authorities of their fields, and they're sharing with you. And we can't wait to see you in person so we can give you more strategies as we move forward and lead from within. Thank you, ladies. Have a great one. Ladies, you did it again. Katrina, Princess, Christina, thank you so much. What you gave today was not just information, it was yourself. And that is the only thing that ever really lands. I love doing this with you all. This table is special. And I mean that every single time we sit together. So, to my dear collective, I want to tell you what I did personally, not as a prescription, but as a witness. When I was moving through my crossroads, I got intentional about my image. I went online, I found women whose style resonated with me, and I studied what they wore, how they carried themselves, what fit the life I was stepping into, not the one I was leaving behind. I changed my skincare. I became more deliberate about my lotions, my scents, my perfumes. I even made subtle shifts to my hair. Well, more than subtle. But what I learned is that those were not small things. Every single one of them was a declaration. I'm still here. I still matter. And the way I showed up in the world is going to reflect that. Oh yeah. I even got more serious about my health. I committed to seeing my primary care physician at least twice a year. And I built a team of specialists within the same system so they could see all my records, track my labs, follow my vitamin D, my iron, my hemoglobin, my blood pressure over time, not just a snapshot. And I went deeper: supplements, teas, alternative medicine for the anxiety and the grief, because what I was carrying was not just emotional. It lived in my body and it had to be addressed from the inside out. I rebuilt behaviorally. I started volunteering at the hospitals. I found a faith community, my new church, people who saw life the way I did, and we were moving in the same direction. I worshiped, I studied the word, I served, I joined women's group, and eventually I built one. I went deep on content, YouTube at midnight, different voices, different perspectives, all pointing toward the same destination: becoming the next version of yourself. And hearing other women on that same path gave me permission to keep moving. All of it. The image, the body, the faith, the community, the learning gave me structure. It gave me something solid to build the new version of myself on. That structure is what made everything else possible: the career growth, the clarity, the woman I'm becoming. Because you cannot build a new chapter on a crumbling foundation. That is why the collective exists. Because I know from the inside what this season requires from you. And I know you were not meant to navigate it alone. The image work, the physician visits, the supplements and the teas, the faith community, the women's group, the midnight rabbit holes looking for someone who gets it. All of it matters, all the data, all the governance. And the woman on the other side of the crossroads is not diminished by what she carried. She is defined by how she chooses to carry it. And that is what emotional governance is about. This is what you are capable of right now from exactly where you are standing. So I urge you, take the Women's Leadership Predictor. Come meet us inside the collective. Come be seen by women who understand exactly what this season asks of you and who refuse to let you navigate it alone. The link is below. We will see you inside. Until next time, lead from within. Thank you for joining me on Rise and Shine Coffee Breaks with me, Dr. Renee, where leadership insights are poured like our coffee, strong, no sugar, and always fresh.